it going? I'm Tina Edwards, and you're listening to My Year in Sound, a Sound of Life podcast powered by Keth. In each episode, we ask our special guests to put their year in music under the spotlight. We explore everything from iconic album releases through to unforgettable live shows, all kinds of music memories entwined with personal experiences and anecdotes. What's more, they'll bring in 3 personal items to help illustrate their special year in music. Rosie Frater-Taylor is a singer-songwriter who tells stories of depth. She weaves a sound that encompasses folk, neo-soul, jazz and rock. Her recent album, 𝘬𝘬𝘢𝘐, has been celebrated by the likes of BBC Radio 1, MOJO and even Led Zeppelin's 𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠. Drawing inspiration from the likes of Joni Mitchell, Kate Bush and Pat Metheny, her original tracks and thoughtful covers have won her a legion of loyal fans. So Rosie, welcome to My Year in Sound.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So you've got a lot to celebrate right now. At the time of talking, it's the end of 2024. 𝘬𝘬𝘢𝘐 has been so well received. I imagine it's a year to remember for you.
Yeah, it's definitely a year to remember. There's been so many kind of crazy shifts actually in a lot of like my team and just really putting the album out, promoting the record. Yeah, I've put a lot into it, and so it feels nice, like I'm kind of coming to the end of that phase, and I'm quite proud of, the work that's been done by the people around me. So yeah,
nice.
It's been great.
Good to hear. I think the first time I saw you play was the Worldwide Awards a couple of years ago. I can't remember when it was. Maybe it was longer. But I really enjoyed your set, and you hold a room so well. Like you really engage an audience. I'm curious about how you prepare yourself in the moments that you are just about to go on stage. Like, are you ultra aware of everybody out there, or are you kind of in your own quiet headspace?
That's really, really funny you asked that. I mean, it's funny because for me, it's like feels like my most natural when I'm like on stage performing. So it's almost like that is me kind of breathing and being normal, which is like the irony of it, I think. And then the struggles for me come more in day-to-day life and like everything that surrounds it. But in terms of the performing thing, we had the privilege, really, me and my band, to do quite a bit of touring in 2022. We played like some ridiculous amount of shows. I had someone was hustling on my behalf. And so we really play together very, very well and very comfortably, and it feels really easy. So I don't really do anything to prepare anymore. I'm just, because I think for a while as well, when I was kind of learning to be a better performer, I found it quite stressful especially to sing. Because even though I've always been a singer, like my mum's a singer as well, I spent a lot of time studying guitar, and really, oftentimes just being a guitarist. And so I think going into performing and then having to hold, the show as a singer was a bit stressful. And then at some point I was just like, I think I've just done it so much now, I kind of let it go. Let go of the stress, and it's kind of easy and fun. So yeah.
So it sounds incredibly comfortable for you to be in a performing sort of scenario and just kind of delivering whatever it is that you've been working on, whatever's on your mind. Where does that confidence come from? Have you always been that child that was like performing and jumping up and down and hey, like, look at me?
No, I think it's I think I feel like it's a very natural thing for me, music. And I think that has both positives and negatives in my life. I think it's a great thing feeling like, writing songs and stuff. I don't really have to try that hard to do it. But then at the same time, when you don't have to try hard to do something, I think you can take that for granted. And so I think... I can't remember the question initially, but there was a link somewhere.
I was wondering if you've always been ultra confident when it comes to walking onto a stage or performing in front of people.
Yeah, I think I think confident in that it feels like quite natural, and as a kid I wanted people to know that, I suppose. Only child syndrome to an extent, maybe.
I hear you on that.
Give me are you an only child?
Yes.
Riddled with issues.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, more than you can imagine.
More than you can imagine.
Anyone that's not an only child can imagine, but
you can like tune out now.
Yeah.
It's for the only children. It's actually therapy for only children.
Yeah.
What we're doing now. But,
yeah, the podcast has completely changed, guys.
I think it's comfortable. It's always been comfortable to play guitar. I found it very easy, and like when you find something easy as a kid, you want to kind of keep doing that and as much as you can. So it definitely gave me confidence, I think.
That's cool.
But, yeah.
Did your parents encourage you towards music? You said your mum was a vocalist. Was that kind of direction always very open for you, or was it you that sought out that direction?
Yeah, it was always super open, obviously. I mean, my dad's a drummer as well, so very musical family. I come from a family of performers as well, so my on my dad's side, like they're all dancers.
Oh, cool.
I'm terrible at dancing. It's to my dismay. It was at a DJ night the other night, and I was standing behind the DJ decks and accosted by, not in a weird way, a guy who was like, you have to start dancing. You actually have to start dancing now. But he was like helping me. But anyway.
What kind of night was it? Was it like a house thing? Was it more, I'm imagining almost like a kind of like
it was
salsa.
No. It was, and I can't remember the name of the DJ. So I really wish I could. You could put it in the description there.
We'll leave a little bit of mystery.
Yeah, but it was with a good friend of mine, 𝘰𝘰𝘮𝘮𝘬𝘮. He's a drummer.
Yes.
So it was like house music. He knows about all of this kind of music I'm not so savvy about. So I was just like, I trust your judgment. But but yeah. So come from a family of performers, so that was always like something that's felt very natural to me to want to go into that. However, I think there was very much a conscious effort on my parents' part to be like, if you don't want to do it, that's fine too. Almost like, maybe it would be interesting to have a child that isn't in the music business, because they're very much in it. They're promoters, and they had like their own band before I was born that was really successful and all of this stuff. So they were maybe like, maybe it would be interesting. But I think, I wasn't going to apply to uni. But then I applied to go to the Royal Academy, and I happened to get in, and I was like, all right, well, I guess that's what's happening.
That's
now,
what we're doing.
Yeah.
Brilliant. It must be so wonderful, like having parents that have been and still are today proactive in the music industry in terms of having that older generation advice, not just from a parental perspective, but also people that are, however many years ahead of you in your experience of the industry. Have they come up with like certain pearls of wisdom for you at any points?
Oh yeah, I mean it's like keep me on the 𝘳𝘦𝘦𝘢.com. Like I'd say the main one is like in my perspective of my own career, and like I think for a while I had a tendency to be quite negative about things, and I think my parents have instilled this idea into me that it's always, you always have to think about the positive things and remember the positive. I mean, it's human experience to have like a negativity bias, right? But constantly they're reminding me to be positive and be, because it's tough as an artist to kind of grind away and stuff. And so yeah, definitely that, like glass half full is the mentality in like my house.
Yeah, it is a hustle.
Yeah.
I mean, artists, independent artists especially, you've got to be social media managers, you've got to be managers full stop, you've got to be marketing experts. There's so many things to think about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that your parents can be part of that journey and sort of share that wisdom with you.
Only child syndrome.
That's it. It's got its perks. So you mentioned the Royal Academy of Music. I was curious about that because you studied jazz there,
Yeah,
is that right?
jazz guitar was the official pathway that I was on, yeah.
And as someone whose style straddles so many different musical forms, what was it like to study at a jazz conservatoire? It's quite a specific route. Did it feel limiting, or did it kind of help you to zone in and really develop one area of your playing?
I think it was probably an element of both. it was most limiting in the sense that I was, a songwriter. Like going into it, I auditioned. You have to play a composition as part of your audition, and I like played one of my songs on ukulele as part of my audition. So I went into it as kind of a songwriter, and there was, not until maybe the last year or so was that really kind of taken more seriously by the people on the, heading up the course, because I think that there was more of this kind of bureaucratic, I don't know if that's the right word, or this sort of thing of like, oh well, you're on the jazz guitar pathway, we have to mark you on your jazz guitar skills, so we're nurturing that side of what you do, but we're not nurturing the songwriting side. But then I think there were a couple of us on the course, myself, a singer called 𝘱𝘭𝘆𝘆, who's doing really well at the moment, big ups Ella, and really dear friend of mine, you might know her, called Liselott Ostblom. She's from Sweden.
Name's familiar.
Yeah, she's doing really well too. But there are a few of us that were kind of like pushing for this more songwriter thing on the course, because I think it's really important for jazz musicians to write, songs, because there's like a tendency to make it quite complex. But yeah, so there was a sort of a few of us were pushing to accommodate the songwriting thing a bit more. So, eventually they came around a bit, and I managed to sing my songs in my final recital, which was the whole battle of it. I wasn't allowed to sing my songs in the recital initially. But yeah, I mean, it was like, I think jazz is good for like, because there's so many different kinds of jazz that you're sort of exposed to on the course, and it's like, you're not going to like all of them. I didn't like all of them. There was like quite a heavy thing like on free jazz, and like, which was a bit painful like, for me,
Not your bag
personally. No offense to anyone who likes that stuff.
Music's subjective, that's all part of the beauty of it.
Don't understand it, but so in that way it taught me what I didn't like about the genre and what I could take from the genre. Long-winded way of saying, probably a bit of both.
And it's just as important to know what you don't like as much as what you do. So in terms of songwriting, it sounds like you maybe think of that as being a singer-songwriter first and foremost, and then the ways that you express that maybe change. Would that be right to say?
I think it's, I would say they're about equal, really, because the way I write songs and write music tends to be through like my understanding of chords and riffs, and the music I listen to and love is like guitar music. People like Madison Cunningham, I'm not sure if you're aware of her. Like the new Willow albums, very like guitar heavy. So I would say they're about equal, to be honest. But then what really bugs me is when one kind of happens to get weighted above another.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I do both. Please.
Okay, great. One feeds the other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A very equal thing. Who were the songwriters that helped to shape your inspiration when you were growing up?
Good question. There's a couple in particular that really, which we might talk about later as well. But one artist in particular called Becca Stevens, who's she's an American singer-songwriter. But incredible guitarist as well. I believe she did a jazz degree in New York, maybe a vocal degree, I'm not entirely sure, but she's got some kind of crazy understanding of harmony, just an amazing player. And she, at the time, she was really big around like 2016, 2018. She released an album called Regina, one called Perfect Animal, and I went to see her live. And I was kind of like blown away by her ability to combine jazz and songwriting, essentially. And like her lineup, her band is like, you've got this guy, Chris Tordini. Yeah, you can tell I was obsessed. I know all the band members. Chris Tordini on double bass. Liam Robinson, I think he played like synths and accordion. And then this kind of crazy, sort of really elaborate drummer called Jordan Pelson, I believe, and then she's kind of playing electric and acoustic guitar, and the songs are like just combining every kind of genre imaginable, like 10 things at a time. So folk, like she's got a cover of You Make Me Wanna, and which is like the most incredible jazz folk cover of that song. So yeah, she's one in particular. I guess Gretchen Parlato as well, another one kind of combining that jazz and songwriter thing, maybe in a slightly more jazz way. But those two, and then when I'm younger, I mean, when I was even younger, like I was very obsessed with an artist called Ben Howard, learning like all of his guitar parts on acoustic guitar and like tapping and like crazy stuff like that. So yeah, a bunch of people, so many people. They're the ones that spring to mind.
Nice. Some great names. I randomly went record shopping with Becca Stevens once years ago.
No, you didn't.
I did.
Why wasn't I there?
I don't know, Rosie. We need to correct that. We'll do it again in the future.
Oh, and I'm pretty sure she knows I'm obsessed with her.
I think she would receive that really well.
Yeah.
Like, she's very
she's
chill.
lovely. I mean, yeah.
Very talented bunch of songwriters you've mentioned there. And you've covered a few really well-known tracks as well. I'm thinking Dreams by Fleetwood Mac, No Scrubs, TLC, most recently Running Up That Hill from Kate Bush. What makes you think, not just this is a great song, but I want to reinterpret this song? I'm going to commit to this.
You know what? Like, I have a few people have asked me this, and I'm not entirely sure what it is. But I think, you know, I think I have to love the song first and foremost. So there's another one I've done was Crazy by Seal. But I love, you know, I didn't want to cover it from that version. Like I wanted to cover it when I heard the Alanis Morissette version. Because I think it's something about the emotion in the track, and like I have to feel like I can connect to the emotion that's going on in that track in order to feel like I can bring something to it. Like, so I think about how I would convey that emotion in my songs, and like so for the Kate Bush one, for example, I find it really kind of anthemic, very, you know, powerful, very dramatic. And so for me, like in terms of my writing, that took the form of like a bit of a Disney key change in the second half, because I was like, this needs to go somewhere, and I was like, okay, we're going up. We're going up, and then you're going back down again. So yeah, I mean, it's funny because you know, I'm often asked, like, especially about my guitar playing, like how I improvise and all of this stuff. I really don't know a lot of the time. I really don't think about it, and then I have to kind of reverse engineer when I try and teach people and talk about it. And I think that's what I mean, like, about the privilege of feeling like it's something that comes naturally to me when many other things don't come naturally to me. But yeah, I don't know.
That's such a wonderful gift to be able to think, like, I am reacting so quickly to improvising, making music, whatever it is, that it's kind of hard to break it down into steps. It's just happening. You must, I wonder if you go into this kind of like a deep hyper focus or some kind of meditative state when you're improvising. What is that like for anyone that's not a musician and doesn't know, you know, that kind of experience? Can you describe it for us?
Well, the best way I can describe it is probably to use like a real life example. So when I play like shows and stuff, like the songs are quite they're hard, you know, and it's taken a long time to be able to play and sing them and for them to sound any good. But like whenever there's like a moment of improvisation, there's like one moment in particular in my sets where it's just like I loop something and after one of my songs, and I just take a kind of, you know, really try and completely improvise something on the spot, really kind of tap into like the emotion, you know, like how to convey what I'm feeling. And I think that comes across in you know, how many notes I'm playing, you know, how I'm playing the notes rather than what notes I'm playing necessarily. And I think it's just literally the joy of feeling like you can create something on the spot. And I think that it doesn't happen like throughout the whole show, but there are moments in the show, that moment in particular I really love, and I feel like people connect to it as well because they can tell that I'm actually like completely in the moment. But then improvising with the band is a whole other thing. But like I play with this incredible drummer, a guy called Tom Potter. I always think of him as a small guy because when I first met him, he was quite small, but he's like recently gone to the gym a lot, and so he's like really big now. So I have to stop myself saying he's a wee Glaswegian lad because he's not. He's like really muscly.
He's bulked up.
He's bulked up. Just letting the people know about that. But he's kind of, I don't know how to explain his drumming. It's like very, he like responds to everything I'm doing, but it's like so groovy. So it really like inspires me to improvise very rhythmically in a very kind of responsive way. Like we're kind of talking to each other. He's kind of responsible for a lot of that on the shows, I guess. But, yeah.
Nice. It's so great when you find like those people that you can kind of trust to reflect your songwriting as best as possible and kind of maybe contribute to it or just get the vision of what you're trying to do so clearly that they elevate it to somewhere even higher than you expected. Yeah,
well, I think, he played drums on Featherweight on all the tracks. But it was my dad who played drums on my last record.
I didn't realise.
Yeah. So, I mean, both very different drummers and I love both of their styles. But what's interesting is to hear how Tom like interprets the older songs as well, because I think it takes them to another place as well, which is I like because it kind of it's unique to the live performance side of things, and then the recorded performance is like it is what it is, and I would say it sort of leans a bit more like jazz singer-songwriter, but live. We kind of go in a bit more and kind of get a bit more rocky, I think. So
nice.
Yeah, but it's the same songs at the end of the day. But yeah, I like that we can do that, play them differently.
And Featherweight's been out for a few months now. The deluxe version came out recently too. It must be so nice to kind of have that time where the record's been out for a bit, everyone's kind of soaked it in, reflected, their love of it back at you. What's it like to receive sort of feedback from your fans? Yeah, how does it feel when you've been working so hard on something, being vulnerable in your quiet space in the studio, and then suddenly it's out with the world? What is it like when you receive that positive feedback?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's great. Like there are a few things that happened that kind of blew my mind. But like the main one for me was so there's a magazine that I read when I was a kid called Total Guitar that they interviewed me in, and not only that, but then kind of they shared the same interview on the online version, and then the American version of the magazine called Guitar Player picked it up as well. And like I was getting these messages from a few people saying, "Oh, I read your piece in Guitar Player," and I found the cover, and it's Lenny Kravitz on the cover, and then me in the corner, and I'm just like,
well, that's iconic.
I know. I'm like, well, surely this doesn't get better than this.
Have you framed it somewhere? Have you got the cover like up on the wall?
You know what? I couldn't get a copy of the magazine.
Oh,
I couldn't get a copy.
shame.
I have got a. It is on my PR though, like my press release.
Yeah. If anyone listening,
clipping of the magazine.
Right, well, if anyone listening has an old copy that they can share with us, please get in touch because it deserves to be on Rosie's wall.
Thank you very much. But yeah, to be honest, the main thing is the shows. Like that's what I live for. Really, is being able to play the music to people, and I was. It's not. We all know the struggles of like putting on events and shows at the moment. It's almost always like is anyone gonna come?
It's very stressful, and people are buying tickets later and later. A lot of the time, most of the tickets sell at the door. I mean, I'm thinking of club nights. I don't know if it's the same as live, but the anxiety is real. Yeah. No matter what stage you're at, you're noticing a decline in advanced ticket sales.
For sure, and it's so like even when you have the confirmation of like X amount of numbers, you're like, I don't believe anyone's going to come.
And then you step out in the spotlight and you're like, oh great, okay, it's not just a party for one.
Well, yeah, exactly. So we did a couple of shows like that in February that just really stuck with me. And if ever I'm like, why do I do this? Why am I doing this job? I just have to play a show, and then I'm like, this is why we do it. And there was an adorable 14-year-old girl who came to my jazz festival show last week from Scotland, and
Wow.
she was like singing along to the songs. Big up Lua from Falkirk. We love you, Lua. And it was, it really makes you think like this is why you do it. It's like there's a bigger purpose to what you're doing. It's not about you. I think that's kind of my life's work. It's like trying to remember that it's not about me. It's just about what I can, like trying to do something different and unique that means that 14-year-old girls are coming to my shows and singing my lyrics, and kind of that's sort of, yeah. So that's the most important thing. Who cares about being on the cover of Guitar Player? If anyone does have it, please send it to me.
Yeah, don't hesitate. Let's talk about your chosen year. So you have picked 2018. What is it about this year? Or maybe describe to us sort of what your year was like. How did you imagine 2018 was going to be compared to what it was?
Yeah, well, you see, I feel you might overestimate my memory of 2018.
Go with what you know, don't worry.
No, it was tricky, getting the brief through for the podcast, because I realised how terrible my memory is. I don't know why. I don't really know why. But what I did realise was, I was like seeing if I had stuff in my calendar from that far back, but obviously not. But what I did have was my Spotify playlist from that year. I used to do like a yearly playlist, like, not to share with everyone, just for me. And I think I had a little look at that playlist, and suddenly all these memories from that year were coming back to me. And so in 2018, it was my second year at uni. And so I was kind of very much in this, this jazz guitar sort of very nerdy world, trying to, understand who I am, who I wanted to be, what was the music that I wanted to make. And, it wasn't particularly easy for me at the academy. I think it was, songwriting aside, it was like a bit difficult socially for me. Coming from, I went to kind of normal school. A lot of the people who went to academy knew each other beforehand and were like, went to music schools and stuff. And so I was coming in being like, should we go and hang out, like, and have like a cake or something and some tea? And they were just like, no, I'm just going to go and practice and stuff like that.
Was it a bit cliquey?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then I think, that's the music business.
It's true.
So it's like it was a necessary skill to learn. So I think that was a bit of a dynamic there. It meant I got very involved in my own thing and very involved in writing songs. And so I spent a ton of time making music, and actually then releasing like my very debut album, which is like, people ask me, what's your first album? And I'm like, well, there is this one. It's called On My Mind, that came out in 2018. And it's, it's a little bit embarrassing. Like, you listen back now, it's not great.
Do you feel like that?
But it's still up there, I mean, I'm still proud of it. I'm not the kind of person to delete your albums on Spotify. I think it's weird. It's like, why would you do that? It's the same epidemic.
It must be hard though, like, because as an artist you're always developing, and then probably for a lot of artists you get to the second album and it's kind of might feel like, oh, I've arrived a bit more now, I've got a better idea of who I am because I've done this before and now I've done it again and now it's even better. It kind of must be quite difficult when you've got something that you've released and you're like, oh, but this one I love even more. And
it's like, it's the weird conflict of improving. Like this weird kind of like, well, that is what it is. And one of the tracks on the deluxe record we just released was first released on My Mind, but we like remixed it. I did a new vocal and stuff. It's a track called In a Dream. And that it's like, I think that's another thing, in fact, my dad especially instilled into me, is like this need to, it doesn't have to be perfect, and often people are paralyzed in that perfectionism, and where it was way more important for me to just put it out. And as a result of that, I eventually found my first manager, there was like a nice little spread in jazz-wise, not going to complain about that. That sort of thing, all from this like baby record. And it was really crucial to my, my development as an artist. And, I did my first live show with a band. Do you remember Kansas Smithies?
Yeah, Jack and Ray Smith's band. Yeah.
Yeah, but the venue. They came out of
the venue. Yeah, in Hackney.
In London Fields.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like this, like really cozy little space. I don't know. It was just kind of, I would say, quite a pivotal year in terms of my artistry. I self-produced that record. Like it was DIY. It was a baby record, but it's what it is. It's what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's check out your first item from 2018.
Okay,
You've brought in a few things for us that are scattered around your persons.
Okay. All right. Well. Okay. All right. So I brought these.
So we've got a pair of headphones.
A pair of headphones. These are the headphones that I mixed that album on.
That first album?
The first album.
So these are quite a small, petite
So they are $12.99.
That's the thing. Don't hold yourself back. Use what you got.
And I remember I was in a relationship with someone who really was a producer and really judged the fact that I'd mixed my album on these headphones. And so bought me a pair of like proper ones that I then mixed my next album on.
Right.
But yeah, no, this was like so recorded everything using these. I just thought it was quite a funny little story because, I'm all about a similar thing with the mics that I was using, like 200 quid condenser microphone to record everything on. And, anyone who tells you that the more expensive the gear, the better, I just don't believe you. I'm sorry.
I'm here for that. I think, like you said, sometimes when you're chasing perfectionism, it's not always the right metric to go by. I think it's using the tools at your disposal, using that enthusiasm and just that naked ambition to just get the thing done.
Yeah.
Where you catch the magic. Yeah. And sometimes it just doesn't matter the kit that you're using to get there. It's just about getting it out.
Yeah. And it's a familiarity as well with the kit that you're using. And yeah, I mean, I've since used better microphones, but I still go back to the same microphone now, like to record. So yeah, I don't know, but that's the first one.
Fantastic. Tell us about your second item.
Okay. Let's do this one. So this is a t-shirt. I don't even know. Do you know Janelle Monáe? You must.
I do know Janelle Monáe. She played in London recently and I missed it. I was gutted.
I mean, I sleep in this, so you're getting the I wouldn't wear that out, but
fine.
But, I thought it was a special exclusive for the podcast. But.
So tell us about the tea. What's its relation to 2018?
So she was one of the artists that I discovered in 2018, and I think there's a whole lot of stuff that goes along with her. She's obviously a queer artist, and she's obviously like very eclectic artist. She's obviously been through a lot of phases. She's musically, and she's I just find her a very inspiring person. And in 2018, I kind of I discovered her, and me and my mum became obsessed with Janelle Monáe, and she's become a very inspirational kind of person in my life. Just I feel like. When you think when you need like a boost of confidence, or you're like, you think about who is there out there who I can look to help with my confidence, and she always strikes me as that kind of person, like the music video for Tightrope and stuff. Just love it. And so we went to Paris, me and my mum, in the summer of 2018, to go and see her, and it was just like, I mean, the songs that. I don't know if they're necessarily the kind of thing you would normally want to listen to with your mum, but like we had a great time. And yeah, so she was like, that album was on repeat, and I was actually, when I was checking out the playlist for this podcast, like I was listening to that record. It was very nostalgic of that time. Yeah, and I guess, you know, coming to terms with my own kind of identity and everything around that. But yeah, so that's that item.
Wicked. I love that. I love that you brought in the tea. It was Janelle Monáe that played in London recently, by the way, not Janelle. Before anyone comes at me, I realised as you were talking.
But yeah, also great.
Also a great artist.
Very different.
Very different. Very different.
You
indeed.
wouldn't have one supporting the other, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. But I love that story about you going to Paris to watch her with your mum. I think artists that kind of... I don't know, I guess like a bridge a kind of generational gap are really special, but I guess it just depends on who the individuals are. But I do love it when I go to a gig and I see like a huge variety of ages. I find that very heartwarming. So
the album's called Dirty Computer as well, because I realised I didn't say that. So
of course.
It's such a great message behind that record as well. You know, it's like it's political and it's socio-political, and you know, it's not really I don't write my own music about, you know, politics or anything, but I love listening to music that's kind of that's has something to say. It makes a statement. I think it's a very inspiring record, and you know, like you need music to kind of help you through times in your life, and I really think that record did help me through 2018. You know,
brilliant. We all need those records that are just kind of like our crutch. At times,
exactly.
That, you
crutch,
know,
not crotch.
Crutch, not crotch. Yes, very clear. We'll be very clear on that.
God.
Janelle, not Aja. So your third and final item, what did you bring in for us?
All right, so this is my ukulele from this is the ukulele. All right, give you a little strum.
Oh yes, please. Oh. Heavenly. Watch us turn that into our new podcast jingle.
There's a price for everything, so if you want me to record your podcast jingle,
we'll negotiate.
I'm happy to.
Great. Going back to you on that. So what makes this uke so significant for you?
So, I mean, Becca Stevens, again, like a big ukulele. I mean, like the most insane ukulele player you'll ever come across, really. Like there's you think about the ukulele and you think about primary school children, which is something I have done. You know, I have taught ukulele to primary school children. Which,
well, that's wholesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I do think kids are great, and so I did love doing that. But I think she really reinvented the ukulele for me. And the thing I love about it is, I don't know what the notes are. I really don't. I don't know what the notes are, and I think it must be the same thing people experience when they tune their guitar to a different tuning. I think it's really interesting to see what you can get out of such a simple instrument. I guess it's the same philosophy as like with the microphone and stuff. And you know, so I recorded a lot of On My Mind on that. This is on Bloom, the ukulele, less so on Featherweight, because that's more like electrics. But it's all over Bloom, all over On My Mind, and it's it's just a very sweet instrument that I've taken on a lot of shows. That I haven't used it on a show in ages, actually. I think it's broken, but yeah, I mean, it's sort of as well. I took it to because I had a lesson with Becca Stevens.
Oh, incredible!
Which was I've got to stop. This is like turning into Becca Stevens fan club.
She has not sponsored the podcast.
No, she's not. She's not.
But that's okay. We're here to appreciate amazing musicians, and I think Becca is someone actually who doesn't get enough recognition.
No,
Her fans know, but those that don't know Becca Stevens don't know how talented she is.
Yeah. Well, I did that. You must know about Soweto Kinch's new show on Radio 3. There's a little series called Flowers, and you have to, so I did that, you have to give 4 artists your flowers. Every time I'm asked to shout out an artist, I think it was the same for, you know, just that casual day I was on Take 5 with Jamie Cullum, you know. I always shout out Becca Stevens because she's had such an impact on me. A lot of the people around me as well in this kind of, in the jazz world. And I think, you know, there's a lot to learn from artists like that. I think, you know, UK jazz has been around for like a decade now. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, so what's coming next? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so let's make it the jazz singer-songwriters. You know, there's enough of us there.
I like that pitch. There are enough of you there. There's a scene waiting to burst out.
I mean, I've got a few friends in Leeds as well, artist called 𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬, artist called 𝘬𝘬𝘐𝑦𝘐𝑚. There's like 𝘬𝘬𝘐𝑚 Ensemble, very folky. Obviously 𝘠𝘬𝘬𝘭𝘭𝘺, who I love. There's like a ton of artists. Snow Poet, which is an artist I actually was meaning to talk about with you. A guy called Chris Hyson and a singer called Lauren Kinsella, who taught me at Academy, but they sort of come together in this insane like jazz folk world. Encourage anyone to check out that record. And it's like, I don't know, for me it's like when are they going to have their moment, you know, because the music is, it's one of those things you listen to it and you're like, well, come on, like, come on then.
Yeah.
You know?
We're having this huge kind of like rock renaissance as well, I think, in the more
Rock
commercial sort of space. So I think it makes sense. The time is now for the new movement.
So that's what the ukulele represents. It represents the future of jazz singer-songwriters in the UK music scene.
Beautiful.
So.
I'm glad you brought it in. Rosie, thank you so much. Where are you creatively next? Like, what's coming up for you?
You know, it's been a while since I've written music, to be honest, and I'm feeling like there's a gap in my life where, you know, for a lack of kind of creative output, I think it's just, you know, promoting a record is like totally different headspace to making music. So really, like, next few months, moving to New Cross, moving to South East London, which will be interesting. So not interesting, really good, obviously.
There's no subtext behind that to read
It is
into.
my choice, you know, it's a willful choice to move to South East London.
I hear that 𝘠𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬 is meant to be an incredible spot there. Literally just like crumble.
So
for
you're
pudding.
going to give me a list of where I need to hang out in
Yes.
South East London.
In fact, 𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬, another great jazzish, folky artist.
Another great jazz.
She's
Exactly,
incredible.
yeah.
She did a piece for Listen Zine, for Listen London, which is the new issue that's just come out. And it's got a whole list of cool things to do in New Cross. So we'll sort you out
There we
before you
go.
leave. You have a whole
There we
list
go.
of ways to get to know
All
your
right.
new town. So that's cool. So resettling in, like finding new roots in a new place and getting your head down with some writing.
That's it. Yeah.
Can't wait to hear what comes of it. Rosie, thank you so much for being a guest on My Year in Sound.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.